Hi everyone, and welcome back to Theodore and Rose. I'm Alana, and in today's tutorial I'll show you how to join your crochet granny squares using the flat slip stitch seam. It's a neat and beautifully defined join that lies nice and flat. It adds a subtle ridge for a bit of texture without the bulk, so it's perfect for projects like blankets or anything you want to patchwork together, where your seams are going to look just as lovely as your squares. Alright, let's get started. I'm going to be joining these 4 squares in the 2 different shades of pink using this white yarn so that you'll be able to see the join and the stitches clearly. So laying your squares flat with the right side facing up, you're going to start by making a slip knot on your hook. And then you're going to insert the hook into the back loop of the chain stitch that comes just before the first double crochet along the edge you want to join. So on this square, that would be this chain here. You want to insert your hook front to back into the back loop only. Then you're going to insert your hook into the back loop of the corner stitch on the second square, going from front to back, and make sure you're also inserting it into the chain stitch just before the first double crochet along the edge you're joining. So that would be this stitch here. So inserting your hook from front to back and keeping your joining yarn, so the white yarn, always at the bottom of your work. You want to yarn over and then pull through the second square loop followed by the first square loop and then through the chain on your hook. You might want to help that through. And that's your first slip stitch made. So then you want to repeat the process by working through the back loop of each side. First working through the back loop of the first square, and then the back loop on the second square, working front to back. Yarn over with your joining yarn, pull through the loop on your second square followed by your first square and then the chain on your hook. So again, into the next loop, back loop only, followed by back loop only on the second square, yarn over, pull through first, second and third. Then you're starting to make the slip stitches along your work. Let's do that again. Continue joining until you reach the corner stitch immediately following the last double crochet on this edge, and meet me back and I'll show you how to bring in squares 3 and 4. So once you've completed making your last slip stitch on this edge, we're going to bring in squares 3 and 4 and begin joining them in the same way you did with squares 1 and 2, except this time there's no need to make a slip knot on your hook. So making sure that your joining yarn is laying to the back of your work, insert your hook into the first stitch and then the second stitch, yarn over, pull through 1, 2 and the chain on your hook. So we're just continuing along this edge, exactly the same as squares 1 and 2. So you're going to continue joining your squares in this way until you've completed the desired number across the row on whatever project you are making. And then once the row is complete, you're going to fasten off and repeat this step until all your horizontal seams are complete. And then once the rows are finished, you can begin joining the vertical seams. So you can continue making this slip stitch in your horizontal seam. Meet me back at the end and I'll show you how to join your vertical seams. Once you've reached the end of your row, you're going to fasten off. So if you're joining multiple squares together, you're going to repeat those steps until all the horizontal seams are complete. Once the rows are finished, you can then begin joining the columns or the vertical seams. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. Now, starting is exactly the same as before. We're going to start with a slip knot on your hook. Making sure your working yarn or your joining yarn is at the back of your work. Going to go into the back loop only of your first square, followed by the back loop only on your second square, working front to back. Going to then grab your joining yarn over, pull through 1, 2 loops and then the loop on your hook. So like I said, this is exactly what we were doing before, working in the back loops front to back and pulling through all 3 loops to make a slip stitch. So continue along this edge until you reach the intersection here, and I'll show you how we navigate that part. So once you've worked all your stitches along the edge of squares 1 and 2, you're going to make a chain stitch to cross over the row seam as you work down your column. So you're just going to join exactly as we have been doing and just jumping over this row. So find your stitch on your back square, insert into the back loop only, take your joining yarn and pull through all the loops on your hook. Again, you might have to help that chain over and give it a little pull, and then you've made your chain that will cross over the horizontal row. So continue picking up each stitch on these seams, following the same method, and meet me back at the end. We've now finished that vertical seam, so you'd fasten off, and this is obviously just a 2x2 sampler, but you would continue making all of your rows first, followed by all of your horizontal seams, and then you would go ahead and finish your project with the border or whatever finishing technique you're using. But as you can see, this method provides a join that is flat but clearly defined, framing the squares beautifully. I have a blanket here which shows you a much larger sample of the joining technique. It's definitely my favourite way to join granny squares. You can actually find a pattern for this blanket on my blog, and I'll leave the link for that down below in the description box. If you'd like to learn how to make this sunburst granny square, I actually have a separate tutorial for that too. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below. Let me know what project you'll be using this joining technique for. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.